Guys, let's be honest. There are other things in your life besides school, and there should be. While selecting your classes, remember that balance is did I mention very, important. Yes, of course we want you to be working hard and be challenged in your classes, but you should also have time for friends and family, extracurricular activities, health and taking care of your body, including sleeping, downtime for relaxing, and anything else that you enjoy. And they don't have to be organized activities. You will be a happier, healthier person if you incorporate these things into your life along with school. Some examples of activities include sports, school clubs, performing arts, part-time job, volunteer work, any of those sorts of things. These things will help you find your passions, connect with other people, prepare for college applications, and recharge.
Hello and welcome. I'm Ms. Adler, one of the counselors at Los Altos, and we are here to talk about balance. So I have a wonderful group of students with me today, and I'm going to have them all introduce themselves. And we're just going to have a conversation about how Los Altos students are finding balance in their lives between their academics and extracurricular activities, family and friends, physical and mental health. All these things are regular realities for all students, and balancing them is an ever-changing thing, even when we're in distance learning or in regular times, it just changes. So I'll have everyone say just a little about themselves. So just say your name, grade, and something at Los Altos that you've enjoyed, either like a class subject you like or an activity you're really into, just so we can get to know you a little bit. Let's see, can I start with Jessica?
Yes. So, hi, I'm Jessica Dooley, and I am a current senior at Los Altos High School. And something I've consistently been really passionate about at Los Altos is the English program, and just kind of following that track through, and not only in class, but also out of class, finding ways to tutor people and stay involved that way.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. How about Grace?
Hi, I'm Grace. I'm a junior, and something I really like, or a class I really love at Los Altos, is drawing class. This year I'm taking drawing 2, and last year I took drawing 1, and it's been one of my favorite classes.
Super, thank you. Sid.
Hi, my name is Sid, and I'm a sophomore at Los Altos High School. And my favorite class so far would have to be the AP Computer Science program. I've always really been into programming, and being able to challenge myself with an AP class is really fun.
Super, thank you. And finally, Isabel.
Hi, I'm Isabel Van Kampen. I'm a junior. Something I really enjoy about Los Altos is their sports. I play field hockey and lacrosse, and there's something I really enjoy doing and really enjoy spending time with other students while playing.
Awesome. What a cool variety. Awesome. Okay, great. So let's just dive right into our conversation, and feel free to chime in. Yeah, I feel like you guys are really good representatives to speak about how to do this in a healthy way. So I'm curious about a few things. What are some ways that you create a healthy balance in your life between academics, activities, friends, family, physical health, mental health, sleep, and other sorts of commitments?
I can kind of just start to answer this. So personally, like when I hear lists like that, it's really overwhelming because there's a lot of things people tell you to pay attention to, things you're supposed to be involved in, either for yourself, academically, extracurriculars, all of that. In a huge way, like I try to manage my plate, and my balance is to kind of compartmentalize my schedule. So not only is that like on the daily level, as far as like for me, like my morning is very much like my wellness time, like taking time for myself, like listening to music, if I need to meditate for a minute, whatever it is to get myself in the right headspace for the day. And then I think the big chunk in the middle of my day is definitely school. So not like being on Zoom. And then for me, I prefer to do my homework right when school is over, so I can like get it out of my head and be done with it. And then after school and after homework is kind of where I reserve my extracurricular time, as far as like sports or if I'm tutoring or whatever else it might be. But then as far as compartmentalizing my weeks, Sundays, I would say, are my big mental health days. I try not to do homework on Sundays, which I know a lot of students choose to do. But for me, it's nice to have a full day of like watching Netflix, being with my family, walking my dog before I go into the 5 day school week. And then Monday through Friday is definitely like my work hard time where a lot of my hours are spent on school and other things that may not be as social. And then Friday nights and Saturdays are kind of when I let loose and I try to either work on school in the evenings or focus on things that make me personally happy and feel like rejuvenated. So that's how I try to keep a pretty healthy balance, just thinking about when I'm doing what. And for me, it makes it more manageable.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Jessica. And I think you made a really interesting point in the beginning that it's this big long list that's overwhelming and you're supposed to give attention to everything, right? And all those things sort of pull students in all these different directions, right? And so yeah, it's important to have like different coping mechanisms to sort of take that apart and manage it. So I think that your example is a really great way to do that. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
Sure. I think that something that I like to do to try and create a healthy balance is definitely having a routine that I do every morning, just so I like wake up, I do my routine, and I'm like kind of ready for the day, and trying to get at least some exercise every day, whether that's like just a walk or a run or a bike ride. I think also planning ahead and writing everything down in a calendar really helps me, just so I can remember when I have a meeting or another event that I have to go to, and also just making time for things that I like to do, like hobbies or spending time with my family, really helps me maintain my mental health and keep me motivated to keep doing my work and do well.
Thank you. All right, Grace or Sid want to chime in?
Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah, go ahead, go ahead. Okay, so the biggest thing, and this doesn't really work for everybody, but the thing that's helped me by far the most is just creating a schedule for myself. Because if you have like a list of things a list of commitments and a list of things that need to get done, it's easier for you to like compartmentalize things you need to get done, and you can also avoid making commitments that you just won't have time for. Like especially if you're taking a hard course load that can occupy a lot of your time, and if you're doing a sport and something like that, it's always best to have it written down somewhere so you can reference it, so you don't make commitments that you know that you won't be able to follow through with.
More excellent points. Great. And Grace?
That's also something that I do, making commitments. So like for example, like on the weekends, I'll like make a commitment to like hang out with my family, and like something that I do is I go on bike rides, and bike rides are pretty long. So but like just like making commitments and then sticking to them, and like committing like time to doing specific things, and like yeah.
Great. So what I heard was a lot of similar things, some overlap and some strategies, and also everybody kind of has their own flavor of how it works for them, and that's great. And you know, there's no right or wrong way to do any of this, right? As long as it works for you to get done what you need to get done and to be healthy, like that's fine. You know, there's lots of different ways that work for people. So all of what you guys just said was terrific. Okay, so we've established you guys have a lot on your plates. You did talk about some strategies like schedules and setting aside time. Any other like tools that you use, whether it's you know, technology or like, I mean, back in the day, more like whiteboards and planners. I think most students are now using more, you know, digital tools. But any other tips, tools, strategies that you can suggest to help students implement these sorts of things?
I don't know if you can see, but this is what works for me. I have like, this is like by my classes in order, and it's like little like checklists, and then that is like a monthly calendar I have. So this is mainly like day-to-day weekly stuff that I read you at the start of each week or when like the new slate comes out. And then this has kind of like bigger things like, oh, I have an interview here, a meeting here, days like we don't have school. And it's so I can see like the bigger picture and like what I'm supposed to be doing this week kind of side by side. And not everyone needs it to like visually laid out, but for me, it helps me stay like mentally organized and like know what's coming up and try to balance my schedule out that way.
That's awesome. Wow, I like that. Looks good too. And Jessica, since you're a senior, would you mind also talking about how did you weave in college applications into everything else?
Right. So I got started early. I got started very early. I want to say April of my junior year. And I just started looking at all these colleges, just talking to people about it. And I also did a lot of my Common App then. So I front loaded the majority of it. And especially over the summer, I worked really hard on creating documents that were organized, that I had a lot of base work for a lot of my supplemental essays done, because I knew that walking into senior year, I still had a lot going on. ASB, my classes, tutoring, sports, whatever I was going to do. So that's a big thing. That's a big reason I like having a monthly planner, is so I can kind of identify weeks or periods of time where I'm not as busy and understand that it's nice to take a break, but also for me mentally, it's nice to have a more even schedule. So I really try to think about that with college apps. Like if I didn't have as much work a certain week for my classes, really getting in there and doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And also blocking out specific chunks of time. So I chose Saturday mornings every week pretty much from 8 to 10. And if someone asked me to go on a hike or if someone asked me to commit to something else, I would just decline because that is something I could commit to. And so I think like being aware of your schedule and also like your own mental needs. Like if you're not a morning person, don't block out time in the morning. Like if you know you're super packed Monday through Friday, do not add that extra stress to your plate. Like what works for someone else doesn't always work for you. So kind of just feeling things out. It's also totally fine to like try to fit it in during the week, and if it doesn't work, switch. So I think with college apps, like be flexible with yourself as far as like trying out when and what time, but when you figure out something that works, like it's better to be the person who is regulating yourself, because I feel like college is a very personal thing, so it can be hard to like have other people try to be the one regulating you and what you're doing. So that's what I did, front loading and like figuring out what periods of time worked best with my schedule.
Sure. And I have to tell you, like for the juniors out there right now, that is almost word for word what I tell my juniors at this point in the year is like start early, work backwards from next fall, and like do all this stuff in the summer. And that's great. Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to ask kind of how that works for you on that front. Anyone else in terms of suggestions for like tools, strategies, other tips for how to implement schedules and other types of organization?
Yeah, as far as technology goes, I've experimented with a lot of tools. Not all of them will fit for each person, but one that's really helped me the most is Evernote. It's really good. You can use it on your phone or on your laptop, and it's really effective in like separating your to-do list. You can make a list, you can make a calendar, a schedule. It's a really powerful tool, and it's really helped me like organize what I need to do and what my commitments are. Another one is Trello. I haven't used it as much now, but it was really helpful um, as just another tool to list what needs to get done and to have like an itinerary and follow through with that.
Super. Thank you. And Isabel or Grace, anything to add there?
Yeah, sure. Some like tech tools that I used just to keep track of what I need to do is I keep a repeating alarm. So if I know that I have like a meeting at 4 every single Tuesday, like I'll just keep a repeating alarm at like 3:50, just so that like if I'm in the middle of something and I start to forget, like I'm never late to that meeting because my phone goes off, even if it's on do not disturb. And I also like to fill out my Google Calendar, and also like sometimes a reminder app on your phone, because it will give me a notification. So if I'm on the phone on my phone, it's like perfect. Or on my computer with Google Calendar, I just get notified, and there's like no way I can forget. And I always make sure I do the things that I need to.
Awesome. Great. And these things, some of them are so simple and don't take very much time, or, you know, like you don't have to be super tech savvy to even set up a lot of these things. So that's fantastic. Great. Grace, anything to add there?
I basically just have everything on notes, and I like bold everything. So I have like all my classes written down, and then I bold everything that I would need to get done like in a given day, and then just like italicize the things that I could get started on. I think that's really important because like being proactive about things like relieves so much stress for me. And also I think just doing like habitual things are like it's super helpful. Like always going to sleep at a certain time, or like waking up. Like for me, I wake up at 7. I kind of like give myself that first hour for like relaxation, or like I don't go straight to my screen, and then I like kind of like go off of my screens at 9. I just feel like having habits like kind of helps you manage your time better.
Absolutely. That's such a good point. Routine is so important, and healthy habits. I think each of you has shared so many good points. You know, put all those things together, and like there's definitely something for everyone there. So thank you. Lastly, I was going to ask you how you make time for self-care, wellness, or just like plain old downtime. And I think a lot of you have sort of touched on that already. Is there anything else in that regard that you might want to add? So like just non-school stuff.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing here for a lot of kids is doing things in moderation. Um, you know, you don't want to play for like 5 hours a day, and then you don't want to have a time where you play for 5 hours and then you just do work. It's more important to have like designated time here and there just to give yourself a break in between periods of work time, because it's really bad for you and your mental if you're just like for a long period of time just like lazing around. It's hard to become productive after that. So it's better to have like small 10-minute, 15-minute, 30-minute times where you can take a walk your dog, you know, play with your sister, or even just play some video games, whatever. But the best thing is to uh, whatever you're doing, do it in moderation.
Very, very good point. Cool. Anyone else, just to wrap up?
Kind of touching on that with like doing things in moderation, I think like a lot of people go on like social media and just like for a really long time, and they don't kind of like realize um for me, I used to like go on social media a lot, and then kind of like one video turns into like an hour of videos and stuff like that. But I realized that like I didn't want to be spending my time that way, and I think like I spent my time that way to like distract myself from doing something that I thought was going to be hard, but then in the end like it just turned out better for me. And so I feel like um not spending like a lot of time on social media is like a good um New Year's intention.
Mhm. It's a really good point. And Sid, I think that that's a really important thing to bring up, into that concept of moderation, because there's nothing inherently bad in spending time, you know, kind of zoning out on social media or playing video games or whatever you like to do to just kind of turn your brain off a little bit. That's all fine. You know, like you need that sometimes. But you're right, getting like sucked into that rabbit hole for hours and hours, that's where it can be hard to like get yourself out of that, and then into a healthier routine. All right. Any last thoughts on any of that?
Yeah, so I think going off of what Grace was kind of saying, like kind of aimlessly like scrolling through social media, I often find myself doing that, and kind of like procrastinating my work. But I really like kind of like try and think to myself like, oh, like would I rather be procrastinating this homework and like looking at these pointless videos on Instagram, or would I rather like watch a movie or like hang out with my brother or call a friend, you know? I think really like stopping and thinking about like what you're doing, because it's really easy just to get into like a cycle of just distracting yourself on your phone especially. And I think really like thinking about like what you're doing and being intentional and kind of motivating yourself with like, okay, like let me just get this homework done and stop, like put away my phone, and then I can watch a movie, or then I can, you know, whatever you want to do. So I think like making time for that by like getting all your other things first done first, and kind of putting away your phone is something I do to make time for myself.
Awesome. Thanks. Great. And Jessica, any last thoughts?
The only thing I would say is kind of bridging off what Isabel said, like being really intentional about what you're doing and thinking about the trade-offs. So when I'm doing homework, I think about the fact that I could go on my phone or do this or do that, but I prefer to have a little bit of a more focused study time and then later on be able to like watch a movie with my family and not think about anything else I have to get done. So that means working a little bit harder in the moment and like maybe not taking some time to scroll through Instagram, but to me, that's like, it's worth it to focus a little harder and then not think about it later.
Awesome. Thank you to the four of you, because you have really touched on some super important things for students to be aware of. And I imagine anyone watching can kind of relate to like different things that you have brought up. So thank you for sharing all of that. So to wrap up for today, I'm going to screen share a time management worksheet that we have. So if you're watching and you're like, okay, cool, that all sounds great. Where do I even start to organize my life? We do actually have a really good tool on the Los Altos Counseling website. So I'm going to pull that up real quickly. Okay, so this is our Los Altos homepage. And if you go up here to more, under course selection info right here. So there's all this information on course selection, which you guys are going to get more info on separately. And right here around the middle of the page is a link that says time management worksheet. You're going to click on that. And this, you have to print this out, but it's a really good visual for you to, if you're like, okay, I have all these, you know, million things to do. How do I get organized? I don't know how long stuff takes me. This is a really great tool that you can use to break down your time every week by kind of like weekly hours. But you would look at, you know, all the different things that you have, whether it's like school related, like your classes, and then any extracurriculars you're involved in, and then all the other things in your life, right? You have to sleep and eat and shower and like, you know, say hi to your parents once in a while, and free time with friends and social time. So all those things add up, and, you know, we only have 24 hours in the day. So this really helps you break it down so that you can see how much time things take. Because sometimes, especially in, you know, in choosing your classes, students want to take all these really interesting, challenging classes, which in and of itself is not a bad thing. It's just that taken all together, if you are taking like a whole bunch of APs and each one of them has 1 to 2 hours of homework a night, plus you're doing sports, plus ASB, plus you have family dinners, plus you have a job, you know, whatever that combination looks like for you, it is a lot of hours. And so when you take the time to do a worksheet like this, sometimes you realize, oh, I'm trying to do 32 hours of stuff in 24 hours. No wonder I'm stressed out. So this is a really good way to kind of lay out your week and understand where your time is being allocated. Okay. Alrighty. So thank you again to the four of you for being with us today. And somebody's phone. And thanks to all of you for being with us today. We really appreciate everything that you've shared, and see you soon.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.